Good evening. Merry Christmas to you all. Those of you who are watching, Merry Christmas to you all who are watching. My name is David Crisso, and I'm from Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey, a published travel writer, travel lecturer. Also, full-time, I'm a clerk with the U.S. Post Office. My home office is in Rutherford, New Jersey. I've been doing that 5 years. It's been a fun job thus far. But I've been doing this for 13 years. I started being a travel writer in the year 2011, and I've been a travel presenter since 2015. So, I must tell you, Savannah is one of the most amazing cities in the country. It's a vibrant city. There's much to do, but the reason why I wanted to visit Savannah is because it's the counterpart to the town where I went to college. I went to college in Newport, Rhode Island, Salve Virginia University, where all the mansions are, right out there on the Atlantic Ocean. And Newport was known for shipbuilding back in the colonial times. Savannah, go back to its colonial times. You had plenty of shipbuilding, plenty of exporting of cotton, and you had your indigo and your silk, your spices, that business going on down there. So both cities had a lot in common when it came to colonial life and many of the various businesses that they were known for when it came to shipping. So I couldn't help but put Savannah on my to-do list. That way I get to see both ends of the world. So, yes, pardon me everybody, I'm on the bottom end of a chest cold, so just bear with me. So, every travel story.
I want to go get some water. I'm looking at that water, and I don't want to take your water.
Every travel experience comes with a great story. So, I must tell you, going to Savannah, that trip was 2 years in the making. It was a very difficult planning situation. It all started in 2022. I wanted to go to Savannah just as the pandemic was winding down, and unfortunately, it was the weekend of Father's Day, and when I realized that my trip was going to be conflicting with Father's Day, that's when I decided to just call it off. And I waited till the fall. Then, then come the fall, there was a hurricane threatening. So I punted it again to 2023. And just as spring 2023 came around, I discovered I was not going to have enough vacation time just to do it. So I punted it again to fall of 2023. And I was struggling to get magazines to buy into the story ideas that I was pitching to them about my trip. So, you know, that's the challenges of being a writer. You're never going to win all the time. So finally, when it came to 2024, I finally had the opportunity. I was going to be doing a story on Amtrak's Palmetto, from Newark, Penn Station down to Savannah. I was going to be doing photography for this presentation. I was going to be doing a story for a magazine based in the UK, featuring an interview with a local historian who took me on a tour of Savannah on the most haunted locations in town. And that I'm going to share those tonight. So which leads us to tonight, finally. And here we go. So I call it Savannah, Georgia, Living History, Lifting Spirits. History, of course, there's plenty of it in Savannah. And when I say lifting spirits, I'm referring to the haunted side without being in the haunted side. Because it's such an uplifting city and everybody's so friendly and there's so much going on. There's a lot of energy in town. That's what I mean by lifting spirits, not the haunted side. So that's why I said that. And so bottom left, the bottom left picture there, that's Bay Street. It's a wonderful street. Then you have River Street right there, bottom center. And this is one of the squares here in town. That is one part of Forsyth Park. And that is a beautiful area of town, Forsyth Park. And it's home to one of the oldest fountains in the country. And I'll show you. This is an aerial view of the town. I tell you, Savannah is just incredible. It's impressive. It's colorful. The streets are all gridded, but everything is so well placed. Everything is well located, situated, I should say. So if you're looking for all the best bars, all the best pubs, all of your best places to go shopping, to to buy all your mementos, there's a specific area, and I'll show you that. So I tell you, after just 3 nights staying in Savannah that weekend in January of this year, I couldn't believe when I got home back to Jersey. I'm like, it's over? I could not believe it. It was a beautiful trip, though. So this is that entire trip. I'm going to show that tonight here. So, about me, your speaker. As I said, I've been a travel writer since 2011. I've travel presenter since 2015. Among my publications are Passenger Train Journal, American Rail, Beer Connoisseur, that is a beer tourism magazine, a craft beer tourism magazine, actually. That's based in Marietta, Georgia. Cruise Travel Magazine, Trains Magazine, which I've been a subscriber for over 30 years, and I was published in that back in June, and Cruising Journal, and I was recently published in that. I did a review on MSC's Yacht Club, because I sailed on the MSC Meraviglia back in late September to the Bahamas out of Brooklyn, and that was a wonderful experience. So I had the pleasure of writing that story for them. And my website, if you've never been to my website, is DEK, those are my initials, DEKtraveljournal.com. Pardon me, everybody. So, there's much to Savannah that you don't know. Did you know? Savannah is one of the largest national historic landmark districts in the country. And it's organized into grids and dubbed America's first planned city. And it's home to more than 100 distinct neighborhoods in 6 principal areas in the city, including downtown, midtown, south side, east side, west side, and even West Chatham. The Irish were the largest crowd. They were the main demographic in Savannah at the time it was first settled. The Irish were among Savannah's first settlers, and which is why the city hosts one of the largest St. Patrick's Day parades in the country. Forget about New York. Forget about Chicago, where they dye the river green. Savannah has the most incredible St. Patrick's Day celebration you could ever see. The whole city comes alive. It's amazing. But pre-Civil War, several well-known Confederate generals lived in Savannah. And before even the war began, actually, including Generals William Hardee, Francis Bartow, and Henry Jackson. And lastly, it was also home to the sailing competitions of the 1996 Olympics held in Atlanta. So that was the sailing venue at the time. One of the most picturesque areas of Savannah is River Street. It is the most quaint. I love this part of the city. The next morning after checking in, and when I woke up, I went for a walk. I decided to, check out what restaurants were where. I got to see what restaurants of all types, where I was going to eat one day during the afternoon, at night. And I just stopped and I'm just watching the ships go by left and right. And it was quite an experience, just all hours of the day. And it's kind of like a little New Orleans with a cobblestone street, and there's some buildings. Yeah. Sorry, folks. There's some of the buildings along River Street that go back to the early 1700s. Yeah, so it's a very old section of town. So River Street is home to 70 shops and 21 restaurants, regardless of what size or what type they are. Savannah's cotton industry was based here. It relied upon River Street for the import and export of not just cotton, but all raw materials that Savannah's businesses were known for. River Street dates back to the city of Savannah itself when it was first founded by General James Oglethorpe in 1733. And the cotton exchange primarily was located on River Street, as I said, making the roadway indispensable to Savannah's prosperity. So getting cotton loads from the ships to the businesses and back and forth, River Street was the lifeblood. That was the way of getting things back and forth. And last but not least, indentured servants were often forced into backbreaking labor along River Street, loading and offloading cargo onto ships along the way. So that's just beginning. And when you walking up and down River Street, I will tell you one thing. You will get hungry, because every one of those restaurants, it's one after another. Whether it's pizza or whether it's just your local flavors, you're gonna see it everywhere. There's a candy shop, a sweet shop along River Street. And there was this one place had multiple flavors of popcorn too. I'm gonna go home full after this trip, but I kept it under control. So, of all cities that make you want to really lose your control of your appetite, Savannah's one of those places. But it's really tempting. So River Street is the area where you're going to find all those restaurants of all types that's just going to make you want to just eat to your heart's content. Okay. But I will tell you one thing about River Street. The ongoing show of the freight ships going by, whether they're coming in or out, it's an all-day show. So I'll tell you a little more about a historic figure who was known, well connected to that shipping show, to the ships going in and out. So, moving on to one of the most famous structures in Savannah is Old Fort Jackson. It's right on the east end of the Savannah River near the Atlantic Ocean. And it's a National Historic Landmark on the eastern end of the city, right on the Savannah River. And there's a 19th century fort, the oldest standing fortification in all of Georgia. And named in honor of James Jackson, who was born in 1757 and passed away in 1806. he was a British-born political figure in Georgia. Now, this fort was built in 1808 and 1812 to protect the city of Savannah from attack by sea, mostly by the Union Army. Now, the Civil War was one of the 3 Confederate forts that defended Savannah from Union forces. The other 2 forts in Savannah are Fort McAllister and Fort Pulaski. They're further westward, on the westward end of the Savannah River. So this is a definite must visit if you're ever in the area. About that show of all the ships going up and down the river, well, when you're walking on River Street, this is very close to the Savannah Riverfront Marriott where I stayed. You're going to come across this statue. And this is Florence Martis. Now, she was born post-Civil War in 1868. She was born on Cockspur Island in the former quarters of an engineer officer, and she was the daughter of the ordnance sergeant at Fort Pulaski. Now, on an old cold stone, pardon my words, on an old stone pier, north shore on Cockspur Island, Florence used to wave handkerchiefs or a towel to wave to the ships as they sailed in and out. Okay? So the minute she saw the passing ships going with cargoes to the farthest corners of the globe, she was just fascinated by that. And she would wave her handkerchief. And she waved at every single ship that passed. She never missed a single ship. And she would wave a tablecloth or even a towel by day or even by a lantern at night. And so she passed away in the year 1943, and her legend goes on as the Waving Girl. And to this very day, her legend lives on. So her statue, you can see her waving a towel like that. And that's very close to the Savannah Riverfront Marriott, right at the very eastern end of River Street. I didn't know much about her until I saw that, and I read the placard, and I was, wow. She didn't miss a single ship. Wow. But it's quite a history, quite a human being she was. Now, speaking of the Savannah River and the ship traffic and how picturesque that river is, you're wondering, what's this crossing right here? This is the Talmadge Memorial Bridge. In New York, you have the Verrazano Bridge. In San Francisco, you have the Yellow and Golden Gate. Savannah, you have the Talmadge Memorial Bridge. This bridge crosses over between Savannah and Hutchinson Island, as if you're going to Tybee Island, which is Savannah's beach. It spans between Savannah and Hutchinson Island and replaces the cantilever bridge that was once built in 1953, which was a really big concrete bridge. Unfortunately, it was too low for the ships of the time. So as ships were getting bigger, they needed a bridge that was a little higher. So they built this span. So it's dedicated to the memory of Governor Eugene Talmadge, who was governor between 1933 to 1937, and he also served another term in the 1940s. Originally, the bridge was supposed to be named after a Native American figure, Tomochichi, but Governor Talmadge's name was often pushed, so his name stuck. Now, you're wondering, when are we going to get to the famous houses? When are we going to get to the haunted stuff? Well, let's break ground a little bit. This is one of the very famous houses in town. Not haunted, but this is the Owens Thomas House of Slave Quarters. It was first commissioned by Richard Richardson in the year 1816. Family moved in upon completion in 1819. And it was designed by an English architect, William J. And it was constructed by builder John Riton and likely team of free and enslaved men in his charge. Now, unfortunately, due to the financial panic of 1819, yellow fever, that epidemic came around. So, and then a fire destroyed half the city. The death of Francis and two of the children in the family. Richardson decided to sell the house and move to Louisiana. Come 1824, the Bank of the United States owned the home and then leased the house to Mary Maxwell as a boarding house. And Marquis de Lafayette, one very famous explorer back in the 1800s, he visited Savannah in the year 1825 as part of his tour, and he visited for the 50th anniversary of the American Revolution. And come 1830, a lawyer, landholder, and enslaver George Welshman Owens, he purchased the property for only 10 grand. And he lived there with his wife Sarah, their 6 children, and up to 14 enslaved laborers. So this house had famous figures of all walks of life passing through its doors. Now, after the combination of the financial panic of 1819 and the yellow fever epidemic, after that fire, this house really see a lot of changes. It saw everything happening. So over the next 121 years, the home would continue to be owned by the Owens family until the very last descendant. And that last descendant was Margaret Gray Thomas, George Owens' granddaughter, who gave away the property upon her death in 1951 to the Telfair Academy of the Arts. So this is one must visit in town. If you really want to learn about famous people in town, dating back to colonial times, back to the 19th century. Okay, now on to our haunted locations. Now, when I first was planning to go to Savannah, as I was looking forward to my train trip down, that 14-hour ride down, all I could think of was when I was doing this interview with this local historian, I was just coming up with some of my follow-up questions for her. And the one question I was always thinking of, it would not get away from me. Are Savannah's hauntings evil and demonic? That's what I was thinking about all the time. And she came back to me and she responded, even in person when we were walking along from one place to another. She said something very important, and do remember this. Ghosts are not meant to be evil or demonic. What you see in Ghostbusters, what you see in the X-Files, what you see in all those ghostly TV shows and movies that you are accustomed to seeing, cast that aside. Ghosts are nothing more than residential beings from past events. Okay? So she showed me the first building, the Savannah Theater. What went on here? Well, there was a fire in that theater. And if you go to see the movies there, don't be surprised to get a little tug at your pants. A child who lost his life in that theater is tugging at your pants or trying to tug at your hand like, let's go, let's go. Like he's trying to tug you out the door. And then there's somebody, when you're sitting in your seat, somebody's tapping you on the shoulder like, hey, your hat's in the way. Like, imagine that. Imagine sitting in the movie theater now and you're wearing a hat and you're blocking somebody's view. Imagine somebody who you think is sitting behind you, but there's nobody there. So then you feel that tapping on the shoulder, or you feel like somebody's elbowing you and no one's there. So they're not being evil. It's just they're a residential being. That's where they've been, all because of that one event. So there was a fire in the dressing room, and there's been a ghostly applause heard by police, along with those figures that I'm mentioning about the tugging of your pants, people elbowing you and you don't feel anything. So that's one place. Then you got the Colonial Park Cemetery, which was opened in the year 1750. Now, there was a yellow fever outbreak back then, and more than 13,000 people died. It was bad. And they actually ran out of room in the cemetery to bury people. And so they had to expand the burial area beyond its gates. So if you're walking the sidewalk and you see bumps in the sidewalk, you see little hills, what you're walking on is unmarked bodies below you. And if you look in the bricks, there are little imprintations. That each of those little markings in the bricks signify an unmarked body buried there. So there's a lot of, you have unmarked bodies dating back hundreds of years, back to that time, 1750, back to the 1800s, back to that very point in time. So within acres, 10,000 people, more than 10,000 buried. And then you had voodoo ceremonies, you had dueling grounds, apparitions in broad daylight. Even my tour guide, the local historian who took me on this tour, she would tell me that her dog would go ballistic because this one ghostly apparition right in the middle of broad daylight just brushed up against her dog, and the dog just freaked. And she had no idea why her dog was going ballistic. So, and right in the middle of the cemetery, here is this human figurine prancing right across the cemetery, right in front of everybody. Yeah, it gets your attention. Makes your hands and the hair on your neck stand straight up. Then there's the Soto Hotel. And here, the ghosts never checked out. The DeSoto, the current hotel, replaces the original, which was built way back at the time of the turn of the century. And there was a fire. Once more, there was another fire in that hotel. And of course, there were lives lost. And so after that fire, they started to have apparitions and ghostly activity in the hotel. And that's when the hotel management decided, like, okay, enough of this. Let's tear this place down, build a new structure, and hopefully this all goes away. Not so fast. The ghosts stayed there. So if you stay at the DeSoto, don't be surprised if you get a little bit of company. So don't think that you're not alone there. Then you got the St. Vincent's High School for girls. Yeah, there you have apparitions of nuns, and even sometimes you'll hear shouting and chatter sounds of students in the hallways. And you turn around and you're like, there's nobody here. And then you hear the slapping sound of a ruler, like you heard about the nuns back in history, how they used to with their rulers, and so you would hear those slapping sounds in the middle of absolute piercing quiet. So, yeah. But that's just the first few. Then the final three, it gets even really hair-raising. The Marshall House Hotel. This place caught my attention. The Marshall House Hotel was a Confederate field hospital during the Civil War. And look out, folks. There were 4 floors, and I was told, stay away from rooms 214, 314, and 414. Now, the first floor was the lobby. Second floor was general admission. Third floor was pediatric care. Well, your first floor was just your in and out patient care if you were getting stitches. But the fourth floor was for your really dire situations. Now, because it was a Civil War hospital, a field hospital, think of the worst things that could happen. One of those was amputations. And back then you didn't have anesthetic, you didn't have anesthesia. You had the sounds of moaning, screaming and shouting, men making all those noises when their legs are being cut off if they were severely injured. And everyone throughout town within blocks just were completely freaking out. Like, can you please pipe down with the screaming and the shouting? What's going on over there? But you couldn't do anything about it. But what's going on here? So when they did a major renovation, a restoration of the hotel, they went to the hotel's kitchen, and that's when they found bones of soldiers, of patients that didn't survive. And because of the horrific times with the yellow fever epidemic, you didn't know where to bury anybody. So that's what they did with a lot of the bodies. They were just buried underneath the floor. It was awful. So during that tour, man, I could just get shivers just standing outside that hotel from what my tour guide was telling me. So, yeah. Then you had the Sorrel Weed House. This house had a story of infidelity between a servant having an affair with a slave owner, and then, of course, the slave owner, he was also cheating on his wife. So there was a lot of that going on. So between the lady Alice Weed, she got into a depression when she found out she was being cheated on. And then Mr. Sorrel, who was also cheating, and it was a mix of craziness going on in this place. But so between the infidelity and the depression, all under one roof, it's enough to make your head spin. That's what some of these hauntings are all about. Not every haunting is the same. So when you're going one story after another, you just wonder, like, gee, what happened here? So one of the features at the Sorrel Weed House at night, they have this red light that turns on with a timer. And the purpose of that red light is, in that house, it's known that shadow figures of Mr. Sorrel and Miss Weed, they appear in shadow form. We okay, folks? I hope so. So that's number 2 most haunted. Number 1 is the Andrew Lowe house. Now, they say, if walls could talk, what would they tell us? Well, you had this ghostly butler named Tom, the spirit of Robert E. Lee, the General Lee, the famous general back then. There was a rocking chair which he often sat in this building. Then the spirit of Juliet Daisy Gordon Lowe. So all those human figures, you could just feel their presence in this house, especially Robert E. Lee. Imagine seeing a rocking chair going back and forth, and no one is in that chair. That makes you like, whoa. That's the kind of thing. So let's get away from our haunted places before we get too scared, before we get too shivered up. So let's go on to one of the most beautiful places in town here. This is Forsyth Park. When I got here, when I got to see this park, I was just absolutely mesmerized by it. Okay, it's a 30-acre park named for Georgia's 33rd governor, John Forsyth, who was the governor 1827 to 1829. And it's the city's most famous fountain. And it was built there in 1858, modeled after the fountains of the Place de Concorde in Paris. And this fountain was just recently restored. So this park hosts art auctions, various events, concerts, local concerts, festivals, even weddings even take place here. It's a very romantic location in town. So further, it has 2 children's playgrounds, and it's also home to various annual events. So if you just look on go visit Savannah.org and just check out what's going on. There's never a single time where anything's going on down there. There's something else, there's something new for everybody to experience. And I'll show one of those major events later. Oh, here is one of my other favorite parks, and I think you may remember it. This is Chippewa Square, one of Savannah's 22 squares, and was located on Bull Street and McDonough at the intersection of those two. And it was first laid out in the year 1815. And if you all remember the movie Forrest Gump, 1994, Tom Hanks, it was filmed at the north side of Chippewa Square. And there were 4 fiberglass benches built for that film. When you see in the movie, you only see 1, but there are 4. And one of them is housed at the Savannah History Museum. And the Savannah History Museum is a great museum to visit. That's another must. And it was, now where did Chippewa Square get its name? It was named after the Battle of Chippewa during the War of 1812. So that's another place that you really need to visit. It's one of the places where if you're going out for coffee, going out for drinks, it's a great place to just gather and just contemplate. It's one of those good places to be. A good hangout place in town. One of my favorite places in town, which I really enjoyed, was the Savannah City Market. This is a young places gathering kind of place. Today, it's, excuse me, Visitors and locals all alike, they flock to the city market for popular restaurants, creative art spaces. There are a lot of live performances there, even museums, and lots more. There's never a day without something happening here. And the downtown area of Savannah, it's the heart of downtown Savannah's business district. It, Savannah's commerce, its commercial background is always dynamic. There's so much going on. There's a lot of businesses, craft beer breweries, a lot of tourism. Tourism is a huge part of the market down there. So everything feeds into it some way. So the city market, you have a lot of shops, restaurants, and art galleries. And this was first built in the year 1755 as being the heart and the hub of town, where residents went to shop for groceries, they bought produce, they bought all the food. If any food items were coming in from sea, that's where everything was hauled in, and you just purchased everything right there on the spot. And even special services and other goods were available right there in town at that time. But not just shopping and other services and goods. It's home to one museum that you're really gonna love here. This is the American Prohibition Museum. The Prohibition took place in the roaring 1920s. Now, in this museum, once you walk through the door, you step right back in time. You leave the city market right behind you, and you're walking into a 1920s state of mind, okay? Into a world where flappers ruled the dance floor, the gangsters, including Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly, and all those gangsters of back then, that's where they ran the town. And you discover the secrets of all the roaring 20s through especially when it came to Prohibition, when it came to outlawing alcohol and speaking out against alcohol. Everything comes to life in this museum. It's incredible. And all the exhibits bring that idea to life. It was amazing. And you'll be really intrigued, I tell you. Also, throughout the museum tour, you're going to see exhibits pertaining to the speakeasies that were set up around many cities, where people, drank secretly. So it was part of that culture back in the time. Also, you have one-of-a-kind experience where you get to experience a speakeasy as part of your tour. So that once you're done with the tour, depending on what kind of admission you pay, you're going to either do the museum itself, or if you want to do the speakeasy at the end, you pay that as a special part of your admission, and you get a free drink, and then the rest you pay on your own. So the specialty drink I had, it was incredible. And I can't even remember what the name of it was, but it was amazing. It was a punch. What was that?
What was in it?
It was a punch. I know that, but it was made up of whiskey. It was made up of fruit juices. It was kind of thick, but it was amazing. And I wanted to have a second one, but I thought, you know what? I'm going on a dinner cruise later on tonight. Might as well hold off.
And they charge $22 a drink in restaurants.
It was actually, that drink was only $12. Mm-hmm. So it was a reasonable cost.
How many years ago was that?
I went to this museum just back in January.
Okay. Down south, maybe.
So this is the speakeasy right there on the bottom right there. One other museum that you're really going to appreciate is the Georgia State Railroad Museum. Okay, it's located in the Tricentennial Park area of town at the area of the Old Central Georgia Railway Savannah shops and terminal facility. And it's fully operable. They even have train excursions out of here for all families. They got a fully operable turntable here. You experience the hand car, or they call it the pump car, where two men sit on either side and they push up and down on a pump handle, which makes the car move. So that's what they call it, the hand car or the pump car. Now it's the oldest railroad repair facility building in the United States, and it's an active preservation space, which makes it even more unique. And the museum staff preserve and restore historic buildings, rail cars, and all railroad machinery of all types. It's amazing stuff.
Have you been to Spencer, North Carolina?
What was that?
Spencer, North Carolina.
No.
That railroad, check that one out.
And the one other museum that
Mine is near Bluffton, because I have a friend who lives there.
Got an active
The one-
turntable too.
the one museum that I was really intrigued by, and I'm sure you're going to love, is the Ships of the Sea Maritime Museum. Now, this museum really delves into the history of the seafarer's life, of how sailors, how various things impacted their lives, such as tattoos. You know, when sailors, when they had tattoos on their arms, and you know, the tattoos had a meaning to them, as opposed to now. Sometimes tattoos do have a meaning to some people, but there was a sea of ink. That was the exhibit having to do with the tattoos. It was called the Sea of Ink, and that was the exhibit that I saw there. So it's housed in the historic William Scarborough House, an elegant example of Greek revival architecture. And it was built in the year 1819 for William Scarborough, who was a shipping merchant. And he was the first president of the Savannah Steamship Company. And it showcases all the remarkable collection of ship models, paintings, maritime antiques, even has a model of the USS Savannah, which was the U.S. destroyer back in the 1940s. And this is her bell right there in the top left. And another great exhibit that's going on at the museum right now is called the Ghost Voyage. An immersive night of light, sound, and story inspired by the lore of myth, ghostly legends, and even lost voyages, featuring the largest private gardens within Savannah's historic district. So not just the museum, but the gardens surrounding the museum are really amazing. And it's really something to be part of. So when there's a special event going on, you really get a feel for it. Now, one other museum that's always talked about is the Savannah History Museum. It showcases the city's history all around. Okay, from its founding in 1733 to present day, including the Civil War, the War of 1812, all of it. Many of those exhibits are the Revolutionary War in Savannah, Johnny Mercer's Oscar and Grammy Awards. There's a performing arts center in Savannah called the Mercer Theater, named after him. The Forrest Gump bench, one of the four benches made out of fiberglass. They're housed here. It's housed in the Central Georgia Railway passenger shed. This is an old train station, actually. So when you're inside, you think you're inside of a train station? Of course. and it's a national historic landmark built in the 1850s, 1970s. Now, it's home to more than 10,000 artifacts. You're wondering how much is inside this building? One of the largest collections of artifacts of the entire coastal community of Savannah. So there's that much inside this building. It's not to miss out. And you have lots of demonstrations. Pardon me. Sorry, folks, I got this chest cold, which I'm trying to get rid of.
How come this was rescheduled? What, were you sick the other time?
No, I wasn't sick. I had a work conflict. I was supposed to be off that day, but then eventually I had colleagues who were away, and I got mandated to work. So this is definitely a must if you are ever down there, especially if you're a history fanatic. If you're a history fanatic and you're into city history, Savannah History Museum is definitely a must. But this is one, if you are of retired military, or if you're into military history, this is really a really heart-thumping experience here. This really tugs at your heartstrings at this one. The National Museum of the Mighty 8th Air Force. It's a tribute to the one leader who was Major General Lewis Lyle, and he was a champion of the fallen and their families, especially those who fought in the skies. If you were an airman in the Air Force, if you got shot down in the war, okay, also in the air, that was a battlefield too. But where do you find a memorial for what happened up in the skies? Well, this is one of those places. Following World War II, he dedicated himself to helping the fallen, locating graves, and the handling of paperwork, focusing on the future, preserving their accomplishments and their stories when they were fighting in the skies above Europe, above the Pacific during World War II. He believed in a place where all can come together and learn about their sacrifices and honor of the 8th Air Force. And the battles in the sky, they can't be replicated, but they sure can be preserved. They can be relived. So that's what this museum is all about, reliving them and preserving those memories and those experiences all together. Now, we're getting to the very end now, but I must tell you, if you want to know about tours, what tours are the best to go on, you want to consider Annika Edenfield. She is an amazing local historian and tour guide. So she likes to bring the thrilling tales of Savannah's haunted past while keeping them grounded in historic fact. And what she likes to do is she can also specially tailor the tour. Let's say if you have a handicap, or if you're physically handicapped, or if you're deaf, she can make things happen by making special accommodations. So that way you can experience the tour in a very unusual way, rather than in case if you go on some other tour and you're handicapped or whatever disability you may have, and tough rocks they may tell you. But Annika, she makes things really up close and personal. That's what she shared with me. Ghost City tours, they're also based in New Orleans, but Savannah is their biggest place of business. This is their big one. The Dead of Night tour is the one I went on, and I loved it. They have Grave Tales tours, Beyond Good and Evil tours, Savannah Haunted pub crawls, if you like to visit bars and visiting all the historic places and all the haunted places in between. So that's one. And so just go to Ghost City Tours, look those up, and you can just book whichever one that best gets your attention. And a third one, hearse tours, where you go on a tour in a specially configured hearse. Yeah, I wish I was joking. You ride in a real converted hearse that's built for about 8 people. And you go on tours such as the Broken Hearts and Haunted Souls, Haunted Encounters. So go to hearseghosttours.com and you can find out more about those. So that's the haunted side. If you want to learn more about the haunted side in Savannah and experiencing Savannah's haunted side and learning about the haunted nature in Savannah there. But getting away from the haunted side, Savannah does have a couple of craft beer breweries. You have Hop Optomica, which is on 39th Street. Service Brewing, which is the one I visited, and I loved it. It's run by a retired military family. And right to the far side of the tasting area is this massive blackboard, about the size of that wall, and you write on the board with chalk, how do you serve? Whether you were in the military, whatever branch of the military, whether you serve in the police, whether you're a firefighter, or you serve your community, however, you're given the opportunity to write down, how do you serve? So that's what this brewery is dedicated to, service. So since I'm in the post office and I'm a federal employee, my dad was in the Navy for 6 years as a medical officer, and so at the time of Vietnam, I wrote both of our names on the board, which was really, really surreal. It was amazing. So you have Two Tides Brewing, sorry folks, Coastal Empire Beer, and the Underdog Brewing. So you can look those up, and craft beer breweries, they give you a real feel, a different feel what beer is like. You got your Budweisers, your Yinglings, and your Coors. That's nothing. Craft beer is brewed very uniquely with all these different ingredients, with giving an up close and personal feel. Now, aside from the craft beer breweries, look into Pedal Pub. Oh, this is cute. I like this. You just do the drinking, you do the pedaling, you do the talking, and you can do all the listening, and while your driver does the rest. That's the steering and the narration. And you get to visit all the highlights of the city. You get to visit all the bars and all the pubs around the area while you're touring around the city, and you're pedaling away while you're drinking at the same time. It's really incredible. What a concept that is. But this is the experience that I had, and you're gonna love this. One of the best attractions in town is the Georgia Queen. This is on you can board right there on River Street, and they have a whole variety of cruises of all types, from lunch cruises to brunch cruises to dinner cruises to seasonal cruises, even special events like weddings and other special occasions. So they can cater to all those things. Now, when I was on this cruise, I had shrimp and grits for the very first time. Wow, that was great. And they had dancing. It was such a fun 2.5 hour ride. And you set sail on River Street. You're on the Savannah River. You sail westward. You sail under the Talmadge Memorial Bridge. And at night, when it's lit up, it is amazing. It's beautiful. If you've seen the Verrazano Bridge at night or the George Washington Bridge at night, the Talmadge Memorial Bridge is stunning at night. And Savannah at night, at sunset, it's a beautiful picture. Wow. And that picture I took right there of the Talmadge Bridge when I was right at the bow. That was amazing. And just as we were heading eastward towards the other end of Savannah River, as we were setting east past the JW Marriott Hotel, it was amazing seeing the city lit up like that. It was just really moving. Don't forget the SCAD Savannah Film Festival. It's the largest university-run film festival event in the world. 60,000 plus guests gather. It's an 8-day celebration of cinematic excellence and creativity, a film lover's paradise. If you're into movies, it's the one that you got to miss. Did I say you got to miss? Oh, you don't want to miss. You don't want to miss. Pardon me there. It's an event you don't want to miss. It's an attraction you don't want to mess up. You don't want to pass up. So you have galas, special screenings, filmmaking workshops.
What time of year is it?
It's in the fall. It's in the fall. So if you go to filmfest.scad.edu and you get all the information there, you can buy all the tickets, you can get all the information on what's going on. You'll learn about who's presenting, who's in the panels. That way you can plan your day, plan your whole stay. Also, you get to learn about emerging student filmmakers. You know, who's new on the scene, who's really upcoming in the industry. So it's definitely a great event, a great experience altogether. Oh, did I say baseball, folks? Don't forget the Savannah Bananas. They take baseball, they turn it upside down. And they're known for this one part of the game called the 3-2-2. Third inning, second batter, second pitch. The team breaks into a random dance routine. So it's the game that you never thought of. Just take the game of baseball and think of it in a total different sense. And this gentleman right here on the right, that's Jesse Cole, the team's owner. And what a show they put on. It's the game that you never thought of. Now, if you're thinking of staying, where to stay, these are some of the best hotel locations I could think of. You have the Marshall House, of course. Remember, room 214, 314, and 414. This is the DoubleTree by Hilton, historic Savannah. It's on Bay Street. Bohemian, it's on River Street. The Hotel Indigo, it sits right between Bay and River. The Savannah Riverfront Marriott, that's where I stayed. Their breakfast buffet is on weekends. Monday through Friday, it's a la carte. The Savannah Hyatt Regency, their breakfast buffet is daily. But the best part about this hotel is the back half of it is built right over River Street. So if your room is in that back half, you got a perfect view of River Street and the Savannah River right there. It's an amazing view. I was intrigued by it. So if I ever get back to Savannah, or if any one of you, I do recommend that you look into it. Now, is anybody hungry? Anybody hungry here?
No.
Okay. Just in case if you're hungry, these are some restaurants on River Street and Bay Street you need to look at. Broken Keel. I looked at this menu and get a load of this. One of the appetizers is what's called a crab meat pretzel. Picture crab meat baked onto a pretzel, onto a Bavarian pretzel. Crab meat dip baked onto the dough. It's amazing. Then you have Huey's, Graffito's. If you're looking for a good pizza, that's at the JW Marriott Hotel. Sixpence Pub. It's right near the city market. Rusty Rutter's. It's on River Street, right on the cobblestone street there. This is the one I visited, Dub's Pub. Annika Edenfield, she recommended that to me, and I had their buffalo shrimp, which was super. So, and also check out the Cotton Exchange Tavern. Those are all little places, but they are absolutely unforgettable. That's just the beginning. But you have your upscale places so you have your old Pink House. It does have a haunted nature to it, just let you know. The Chart House, of course. Then you have the Gray. The Gray is an old Greyhound bus station turned into a restaurant. Ruth Chris, of course. Their steakhouse atmosphere is fantastic. Vic's. And this one, I must tell you, Alligator Soul. This is a good one. I invite you not to miss out. One of the appetizers I had was alligator chorizo mac and cheese. Imagine alligator sausage mixed into mac and cheese. Oh, it was great. And one of the specials on their menu was exotic game. And among the specials I chose from was grilled elk. And if you ever knew what grilled elk is like filet mignon, only it's deer. But it's super. I loved it. It was incredible. Absolutely amazing. So that's on Barnum Street. So that's Alligator Soul. We're getting to the end here, folks. Leopold's Ice Cream. This place has been open in 1919. They make their own ice cream in-house. It's the best in town. So don't miss out. Unfortunately, I had to miss it. But I'm definitely going to do that myself, hopefully when I do get back.
Why? You were there all week.
I was there for 3 days, but I missed.
Can't do everything.
Exactly. But
Well, I miss Ruth Chris, because that you could do anywhere. Ruth Chris,
well,
so I wouldn't.
it's best to include it. I include it anyway. But so to finish off, when it comes to getting to Savannah, I recommend that you take the train, because getting there is half the fun. When you're going down there by train, you take Amtrak's Palmetto, and that you leave Newark Penn Station at 20 minutes after 6 in the morning, and you get there at approximately 9:30 at night. And don't worry, I've tracked the train on my Amtrak app many times, and the train does very well. It gets there well ahead of time. Now, that's in case if you get held up by freight train activity towards the end of the trip. Well, that's just the risk that you're taking. But Savannah train station is incredible. I love that word. But my favorite feature of that station, right there on the front wall, that is a tile fresco of a locomotive, right in the front wall. But that's not the only part. This station was built in 1962 at the height of the Civil War movement, you know, when you had all the segregation going on. So when you go into the station, it looks like a normal train waiting room. It may look, but if you have an eagle's eye, you can just spot some of the relics, some of the signs from that segregation era. If you look really close at the walls, over the restrooms, over the water fountains, all those little details, you may see colored, you may see white. You're gonna see those little imprintations on the wall, painted over though. So if you see that, try to get a good picture of it. I was trying to find it, I was looking for it, but unfortunately my Uber car showed up and I had to get moving. But those are some of the features that you need to look for if you're really into railroad history. If you're just into history itself, this station really brings it out.
How much is the fare?
What's that?
The fare.
My train ticket round trip was $300. And well, it's a long distance train, technically. But it's a wonderful ride. It's 14 hours, either way. That excludes all your stops. So you get to Washington, D.C., you change engines, that's about half an hour or so. Change engines and crew. The next stretch stop is Richmond, Virginia. And then the last major stop, stretch stop again, if you're getting is Florence, South Carolina. After Florence, South Carolina, it's 2.5 hours. The next 2.5 hours, it's the last major stop there if you want to really get a breath of air outside before getting back on board. So Florence is the last place to do so. But
How long does it stop for though? Like, not long, but like, can you get off, you buy your train ticket, get off, look around that area?
Not
and
really,
get on
not
the
really.
You have to stay
Not-
on the one that you
not-
bought.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
That because
It's not like a hop on, hop off.
no, not like a hop on off trolley. No, you're on board the whole time. And also, when you're on a long distance train, you're told where to sit. You're given an assigned car where to be. So if you're getting off at a certain station, like Florence or Richmond, they'll tell you where exactly to sit, because that's how they situate everybody.
But they don't have a sleeper car on that one?
The Palmetto doesn't. So you just gotta bring a blanket, because the coaches on the Palmetto, the seats do recline back significantly, and the seats are very comfortable. So you get a chance to just recline, and the windows have curtains, so you get plenty of privacy. That way, no one's bothering you.
We're driving to Florida tomorrow. I'm going home and packing.
Oh.
And staying over a couple of nights. And this way, you want to stay a little longer somewhere, or you don't have to. Because when you buy your ticket, you're buying your return ticket too, right? It's like a round trip.
Yes.
It's a little cheaper than buying just one way, and you're going back.
Yeah.
If you don't have a car.
And if you've been to my Amtrak presentation, if you're going on any all-day, long-distance journey, make sure you bring a soft cooler with you. Fill it up with anything that can be chilled. Nothing heated though. Just make sure you just fill it up with anything that you can just keep yourself held over. There is a cafe car on board, yes, but just in case that the cafe car gets a little long in the tooth, or if they may run short on supplies at one time on various things, at least you got stuff in your cooler to keep you going. So, so I say thank you so much for coming out tonight. Those of you who are watching out there at home, I hope to see you all again soon. I have lots of other presentations, my cruising presentation, my budget travel presentation. I have lots of other topics, and I hope to bring those to you very soon. So you have a good night. Merry Christmas, everybody. And I hope to see you all well rested in 2026. Take care.